I got a request recently from one of my lovely subscribers to talk a little bit about debt repayment strategies. So this is the first of many videos that I'm sure we will be talking more about debt repayment, since that is a big part of our lives these days with the cost of living crisis that we're in and how much we rely on debt to kind of make our lives happen these days, unfortunately. So let's talk about two different methods that are popular for paying off debt. It's the Snowball method and the Avalanche method. And if you haven't heard about these before, we're going to break them down, so stay tuned. So the first one let's talk about is the Snowball method. So this one is a method of debt repayment that involves paying off debts in the order of the smallest balance to the largest balance, regardless of the interest rate. So the first thing that you're going to do is really start, let's say you have a couple of credit cards and a car loan. So what you're going to do is list out all of your loans and then list the interest rates out, but you're not going to worry too much about the interest rates. So just list out how much you have in debt on each loan, what's left, and so that you can get it all down on paper, or you can put this in your Apple Notes, Notion, whatever you use to keep track of these kind of things. And then once you've identified the loan or the credit card that has the smallest balance, you want to continue to make minimum payments on all the rest of your loans. Don't stop paying those, obviously, but you want to start chipping away at that smallest loan. And so that's what you're going to focus on, is minimum payments on the rest, and then start to make extra payments on that smallest loan. And then you want to just keep making payments on that until you eliminate it, completely pay it off, and then you move on to the next one up the ladder. Now, the pros of this are that it's very psychologically rewarding to see debt vanish. And so that feels really good. So it's not necessarily the most efficient way to pay off debt, because your smallest loan might not have the highest interest rate. So from that perspective, you might not get it paid off as fast as you might if you focused on the one with the higher interest rate, which is what the Avalanche method does, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it can be really great to go from having 3 loans down to 2, and then just watch that shrink down to 1 and then down to nothing. So I have definitely used the Snowball method in the past, especially when I had a lot of debt and I was feeling really just stressed out about having it all. Sometimes it's really nice to just start with something that's small and just see yourself succeed and then be able to move on to the next one. So if that works for you, great. That's called the Snowball method. The second method of debt repayment is called the Avalanche method. And so this one, how this works is that you will start paying off your debts in order of the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. So again, you're going to write down all of your loans, all of your credit cards that you have, all your debt, and then the amount. And then now you're going to look at that interest rate. So let's say you've got an interest rate on one with 20%, which would be probably a credit card. And then let's say you've got an interest rate on a car loan with like a 10%, 11% interest rate. So once you've listed that out, again, continue to make minimum payments on all your debt, all your loans that you have, credit cards and so forth. And then identify that one credit card, for example, that has that highest interest rate, or APR, annual percentage rate, and work on paying that one off first. And then once you have that paid off, move on to the one with the next lowest APR, the next lowest interest rate, and so forth. And so that's the strategy there, regardless of the actual amount on each loan. And so that can be a really good strategy as well, because that way you're knocking out the ones that are costing you the most, because the higher the interest rate is on your loan, on your credit card and so forth, the more it's costing you in interest over the life of that loan, which is why credit cards, by the way, are such a terrible deal to carry balances on, because they typically, right now, I think they're running about 22, 23% APR, which is higher than I've ever seen it in my lifetime as an adult of using credit cards. But that can just be really a rate limiting step if you're carrying balances on something that's got a really high interest rate, is that's very expensive to be carrying balances that way. So the sooner you can get that paid off, the better. So that's the two methods of debt repayment right there, the Snowball method and the Avalanche method. Let me know in the comments if you've used one or the other of these over the years as you've been paying off debt, and if you have any opinions or perspectives on which ones work better for you. I'd be really interested to hear from you. Again, thank you so much for your comments. As you have questions for me about personal finance, please leave those in the comments, and I would love to address those in upcoming videos as well. And I will see you again soon in my next video.